The attic smelled of dust, pine boxes, and memories. It was where we stored things we couldn't bear to throw away but had no use for in our daily lives. And in the corner, under a heavy canvas sheet that was itself a map of dust, was my final inheritance from my grandmother, a Zenith transoceanic shortwave radio. Nana Eleanor wasn't just a hobbyist, she was a virtuoso of the airwaves. In the 60s and 70s, her call sign was known from Tokyo to Chukumkarai. She'd told me stories of conversations with sailors in the South China Sea, with missionaries in Africa, with lonely engineers in Antarctic outposts. The whole world, she'd say, was just a twist of a dial away. But her stories always had a shadow. The static, Alex, it isn't just empty noise, she'd warned me once, her usually twinkling eyes turning serious. It's a sea, and most of the voices are friendly ships. But you have to listen to the quality of the silence between them. If you ever hear a clear voice, a voice that sounds like it's speaking from the bottom of a well, and it asks a question that's followed by a silence so deep it feels like falling, you shut the radio off. You walk away. You don't answer. Promise me. I was 15. I promised. I thought it was just another one of her spooky tales, like the ones about the ghost in the laundry room. 10 years later, she was gone, and the radio was mine. It took me the better part of a Saturday to haul its solid, walnut-cased weight up to my home office, a converted attic space that mirrored her own. Another few days were spent cleaning valves, checking capacitors with a multimeter, and carefully replacing frayed wires. The moment of truth came on a rainy Tuesday night. I plugged it in, the old vacuum tubes glowing to life with a warm, orange light. The speaker crackled, then erupted into a familiar oceanic hiss. A wave of nostalgia and grief washed over me. It was Nana's voice, in a way. I spent an hour spinning the heavy tuning dial, catching snippets of Morse code, a weather report from Canada, a burst of frantic polka music. It was comforting. Then, as I swept past a seemingly empty frequency, a voice sliced through the static. It was unnervingly clear, but thin and distant, as if transmitted through a vast, cold distance. Is anyone out there? My blood went cold. It was exactly as she had described. The clarity. The question. My hand hovered over the power switch, my grandmother's warning screaming in my head. But the rational part of me, the engineer, scoffed. It was just some lonely operator, probably a prankster. Curiosity is a stronger drug than fear. I keyed the microphone, my voice trembling slightly. This is Alex, call sign Kilo Indigo 7 Tango. I read you. Who is this? The static returned, but it was different now, a waiting, attentive silence. Then, the voice returned, flat and devoid of any emotion, like a text-to-speech program. Thank you for answering. What is the date? A bizarre question. It's, October 26th, I replied. The year, the voice insisted, a note of urgency creeping into its artificial monotone. It's 2025. The silence that followed was the most profound thing I have ever experienced. It wasn't an absence of sound, it was an active void. The usual background hiss of the radio didn't just go quiet, it was sucked away, leaving a dead air that felt heavy and thick. I could hear my own heartbeat thumping in my ears. A full minute passed. I couldn't bear it. Hello? Are you still there? What's your call sign? The voice returned, but the flatness was gone, replaced by a terrifying, weary resignation. I have been calling on this frequency for a long time. My long-range comms failed. I thought the silence was all that was left. I thought I was the last. The last of what? I asked, my throat tight. The last of us. The final broadcast from the Ether 7 mission. Pilot Officer James Keeler. I let out a nervous laugh. Okay, very funny. The Ether 7 mission is a myth, a ghost story ham operators tell. You're not the first to try this. Check your archives, the voice, James, said, without a hint of offense. Mission launched October 14th, 1965. A joint venture. Top secret. Contact lost November 2nd. Officially declared lost with all hands after a month. I grabbed my laptop, my fingers fumbling on the keys. A quick search in declassified government databases confirmed it. The Ether 7 mission was real. A clandestine attempt to orbit a spy satellite with a manned module, lost due to a catastrophic systems failure. The dates matched perfectly. A chill that had nothing to do with the drafty attic crawled up my spine. This wasn't a prank. How is this possible? I whispered into the MIC. How are you broadcasting? I don't know, Keeler replied, and for the first time, he sounded genuinely lost. The ship is dead. Has been for decades, according to you. Life support, navigation, everything. But the emergency beacon, it must have a residual charge. Or perhaps this isn't the beacon. Perhaps my consciousness is the signal. A final thought, looping forever in the dark. Are you real, Alex? Or am I just dreaming my own afterlife? I'm real, I said, the words feeling inadequate. Prove it, he shot back, his voice suddenly sharp, desperate for an anchor to reality. Tell me something real. Something that wouldn't be in the mission logs. Tell me what the sky looks like right now. I stumbled to the dormer window, pushing it open. A cold breeze swept in, carrying the smell of rain. I described it all into the microphone. The deep indigo of the twilight sky, the first brave stars piercing the gloom, the distant, warm halo of city lights staining the clouds orange. I heard a sound over the speaker then, a shuddering, staticky gasp. It was the most human thing I'd heard from him. Stars, he breathed. I remember stars. They were so close. Then, the heavy, swallowing silence descended again. This time it felt deeper, more final, as if I was standing at the edge of a cosmic abyss. When his voice returned, it was faint, fraying at the edges, blending with the static. The signal is fading. The power is almost gone. Thank you, Alex. For answering. For the stars. Wait. I shouted, gripping the microphone. Is there anything I can do? A message for your family. They are dust, he whispered, the words barely audible. Just like me. But you answered. That is more than I dared hope for. Goodbye. The static rushed back in, a roaring wave that drowned out everything. I called his name for what felt like an hour, my voice growing hoarse. There was only the empty hiss of the universe. Finally, exhausted and shaken, I flipped the power switch. The orange glow of the tubes died, and the attic was silent except for the patter of rain on the roof. I thought that was the end of it. A strange, tragic, one-time contact with a ghost from the dawn of the space age. But the next night, as I lay in the dark trying to sleep, I heard it. Not from the attic. Not from the radio, which was still powered off. The sound came from the corner of my bedroom. A faint, unmistakable hiss. Then a voice, clear as crystal and terrifyingly close, spoke from the emptiness beside my bed. It was no longer distant. It was here, in the room with me. Alex. I froze, my blood turning to ice. I have another question, the voice of James Keeler said, now intimate and probing. The silence out there is so very absolute. May I come in?